Hey guys, welcome back to the Joy of Wrenching. My name is Les. I'm your friendly neighborhood mechanic. And today in the shop, I've got my 2024 Toyota Prius here that needs an oil change. But not just any oil change, the very first oil change. It's almost got 5,000 miles, and that's where I tell people to change their oil every 5,000 miles. And I want to show you not only how to change the oil and reset the reminders on one of these late model Priuses, but we're going to cut open that oil filter too, and we're going to see if there's been any strange debris or filings or anything as part of the break-in process for this car. So come along as we get into it. All right, so let's get started on this oil change. And I'm going to start where I start with every car that comes into my shop for an oil change. And in this case, we've got a new 2024 2.0 liter. This is a Toyota hybrid system here. And it's just a regular 4-cylinder, made it up to electric motor, got a bunch of coolant and all kinds of high-powered cables and all things that are different about them, but it's still a regular engine. And here's our oil dipstick. And the first thing I like to do is just check to see what the oil level looks like on a car that just pulled in. So I'm going to clean off my stick here, put her back in real quick. That way I get a good reading. All right, let's take a look. So the level of the oil there is at the second dot. It's always good to look on both sides of your stick to make sure that it's reading correctly. And so, yep, there it is. So at the top of that range there. The reason why I like to do this is twofold. One, I know what the oil looks like in the car as it comes in. And if your oil is really dirty or mixed with water and milky or something like that, or the level is very low, you want to know that before you go working on that car. And the other reason I like to do this is because I'm going to drain that oil and I'm going to catch how much came out. That helps me know exactly how much I need to put back in to get back to the level that was on the dipstick when I started. Okay, so let's get underneath the car and see what we got to do. All right, so if you look right underneath the passenger side of the car on these newer Priuses, you'll find this panel right here held on with 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm bolts. And so we're going to need to release that panel. Let me set you up here in such a way that you guys can see, and I'll go ahead and get that done. I'm just going to use my drill here. Take out these 4 bolts. 10mm head. Comes out nice and easy. And then this little plate can just come right down and set out of the way. All right, once you get that plate out of the way, you'll be able to see up under here, bottom side of your engine, oil pan. Here's your oil drain plug and your oil filter. Now on these newer Priuses, Toyota's gone to a regular spin-on filter, which is great. A lot easier than the older style Prius, which had sort of a plastic cap over a filter cartridge, and that plastic cap took a special sort of wrench to get it off. This is just a regular spin-on filter. You can get that off however you choose. And so we're going to go ahead and drain that oil now. So as I mentioned, I like to capture the oil that I drain out of an engine. And so I've got a graduated bucket here with different markings on it. And so I'm going to set that here on top of my drain pan. And I'm going to go ahead and remove my drain plug. On these newer Priuses, we have a 14mm drain plug. We'll crack that loose. And let's see if we can do it without getting it all over our hands. So I'm going to push it in while I twist it out. And then I'm going to, at the very last minute, you'll know it's all of the threads are out and you can move your hand as quickly as you can. And look at there, I did pretty good. It got me a little bit on the thumb, but not too bad. And so here's the drain plug, and it does not have a magnet on it. That's something that you could add if you wanted to. The oil is looking pretty clear. Let me go ahead and get you guys up here so you can see it a little bit closer. There you go. I'm catching it in the bucket here. We'll just go ahead and let her drain on out, and then we'll go ahead and get our oil filter next. Now the drain plug has a washer on it with a little bit of a rubber or nylon, this blue coating. And if yours looks like it's damaged or the washer looks like it's squished and starting to sort of come out wider than the bolt itself, then I would say, yeah, go ahead and replace that or that washer. But you don't, in my experience, you don't really have to replace it every time. Now, if you have one and you want to replace it every time, that's up to you. But this one looks like it's going to seal just fine, and I'm going to reuse it. We're down to a dribble now, and we have so far caught about a gallon or 4 quarts of oil just from the drain itself. And there's going to be a little bit left in the oil filter, and I'll show you how much we catch at the end, and then we'll look at the oil itself. Okay, so it's been draining here about 5 minutes, and we still have just this little bitty drizzle of oil coming down here. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the plug back in because I don't want to wait for it to quit drizzling. Could be, who knows, 30 minutes, longer than that. I'm going to tighten this up, and if there's a torque spec for that, I'll give it to you. But normally these things are, somewhere around, not very many ooga-doogas, basically, just snug. But let me get that. All right. We've got our 14 millimeter. We'll go ahead and tighten this thing up. Nice and snug. There we go. And then I'm going to wipe off any kind of oil residue here. That way I don't get fooled by whatever is left on here thinking I have a leak. You can see a little bit's kind of drizzled down here. And so we'll just go ahead and wipe that off. Wipe around the plug really good. That way, if you see any wetness here, you know it's from leaking around that plug and not just what you drained out. Now, let's get to this guy, okay? So like I said, we've got a regular spin-on filter here. The old style Prius had a cartridge filter underneath a plastic cap. And so to get this one off, we just have to turn it to left, lefty-loosey, okay? And you can use whatever method you want. A lot of times I'll just use some channel locks or some locking pliers and twist it to the left and break that seal. Once it's loose, you can get it by hand. But I wanted to show you that if you had an older Prius like I did, and you've upgraded to the newer one, you can use this fancy contraption that you used to have to use with these little notches for that plastic cover. You can use it because it just happens to be on the inside the right size to go on here, and it grips hold of the facets or the hex features on the end of the filter. So I'm gonna go ahead and use it. So push that on there. This one takes a 3/8 drive, but a lot of them will take a 1/2 inch. So let's break this thing loose. GoPro. All right, so let's get in here on this thing with the 3/8 drive, and we'll go ahead and break the seal on our little oil filter. That thing was on there pretty good, I would say, from the factory. A little bit, they must have had some strong hands, because you know how you're supposed to only put these things on hand tight. The guys at Toyota must have some Popeye arms when they put these things on there. But we got her broke loose now. And again, I just used the old school Prius notched sort of cover taker offer, and it's got fasting. I'll put links in the description to this stuff if you guys want to use it. And I'm not sponsored by it, but I do recommend it. And so now I've got it broke loose. I'm gonna go ahead and spin it by hand, and it'll start drizzling some oil. And so I got my bucket here ready to catch that. So there it goes. You see where it's leaking from. So just be prepared for that. Now they were nice enough to, make it so that it drained in a somewhat controlled manner. And so far we have about 4.6 quarts drained out of this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that filter completely and get you guys set up again. All right, we'll continue spinning this thing off. I'm keeping my hand on it, keeping a little bit of pressure on it so that it doesn't just fall off into this bucket and soak me with oil. And a lot more oil is trapped inside of this filter. There we go. Let it drain out a little bit. Like I said, we're going to cut this filter open here in a second. We're going to look inside, see what we can find, see what kind of goodies might be caught inside of this filter. This is the break-in filter. This is the original Toyota filter here. This is the first time this car's had an oil change. All right, let me get in here, show you what it looks like without that filter on there. Move this out of our way a little bit. There we go. All right, so as you can see where that filter goes, nice clean surface. If it's not, you want to clean that surface really well. Get any drizzles off of here so that you're not fooled thinking that you got a new leak somewhere. Get all those drippings. Keep that nice sealing surface right here. Make sure that's nice and clean. All right, time to go in with our new filter. So we're going to put just a little bit of oil along this rubber sealing edge right here, and then we're just going to screw it in place. So let me set you down so that I can get that done. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. So I'm just going to get a little bit of oil on my finger. I'm going to put it on this ring. Just a little bit. That keeps this from bunching up and somehow not sealing right. Set it up in place and just spin it on the way that you took it off. And unlike the Popeye-armed guys at the Toyota factory, you just want to spin it on until you can't turn it by hand. And that's tight enough. Those of you that are out there saying, oh my goodness, he's using some no-name brand filter. Oh, how could you? Hey, this is my car. And I'm going to change the oil every 5,000 miles. So I don't need the fanciest filter in the world that says it's good for 20,000 miles, because not changing your oils for 20,000 miles, I don't care what car it is dumb. And so these filters are just fine. So here's the oil that we caught. We've got a little bit over 4.5 quarts. And it's, for 5,000 miles, it's kind of dirty, a little dirtier than I like to normally see it. Hopefully that's just because of the break-in. And, you know, the color of your oil, if you notice that your oil is really, really dirty, then that's a telltale sign you need to make the change interval smaller. So if you're changing your oil every 5,000 miles and it's really dirty, maybe change it every 3,000 miles. So just keep an eye out for that. And I've gone ahead and sliced open our oil filter here with this oil filter cut and open tool. And again, I can put links in the description to this stuff if you're interested in doing this sort of thing. But let's take a look inside. Let me try and set you up here where you can see, hopefully. There we go. All right. So you just cut the top off this thing, a little bit of oil. All right, let's take it apart and see what we got. What I'm really interested in, of course, is going to be the filter material that's caught whatever is in there. See if I can get this out of here in such a way. Take that off. See, when you cut it open, it kind of squishes this in, and so it's kind of gripping hold of this filter material a little bit. Oof. Kind of flew at me. All right, let me get some pliers, try and pull it out of there. Get in here a little bit. Come on. Come on. You know you want to get out of there. Work it a little bit side to side maybe. It's coming. It's coming. A little bit at a time. Come on. Let me see if I can get it by hand now. There we go. All right. Moment of truth here, guys. There's a valve. Look down inside of here. Any grit or anything? No. Nothing in there. That's good. Okay. And then we're going to look inside of our pleating. Let me clean my hands off just a little bit here. Make sure you guys can get a good view of this. All right. Let me get some more light on the subject. Sometimes too much light can be a bad thing too. But let's look inside here. What I'm looking for is any kind of metal shavings down inside of these pleatings. You know, chunks of rubber or whatever. I don't see anything glinting. The shine that you see is just the oil shimmering, you know, reflection from the light. But no metal shavings, no rubber. There's a couple of little pieces of the outside of the filter where it got cut and shaved off. But nothing concerning. So that's pretty cool. You know, again, this is my personal vehicle, so I don't want to see any metal shavings or break-in. Yeah, good. So all looks good there. We'll go ahead and top this thing back off with oil and finish this off. Okay, so before we put our pan cover back on, this belly pan cover. Just want to get all the little bits of drips and things that might have fallen out during the oil change cleaned up here. That looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and put that cover back on. All right, so we'll get our cover back on here, and you can take the front of the cover and slide it forward, and it's got a lip that'll it'll sit in place. That way you don't have to hold it all the time. You get your 4 10mm bolts and just get them started in the 4 corners where they go. And these things you don't want to over tighten, because of course you could strip it out and then you'll be like everybody else with belly pan flopping around, cruising down the road. There we go. All right. So again, the 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold this little pan, and it keeps itself up there. You just slide it in with these little lips right here behind the bigger one. All right, so time to put the oil in. And unlike the oil filter, I am going to recommend that you use a really good synthetic oil. And so on this engine, it calls for 0W16, plainly marked here, not on the cap. So if you're used to looking at the cap for what to use, it's not there, but here on a sticker. And so I'm going to put this Mobil 1 0W16 in, and we know exactly how much we need to put in because we measured it when it came out. We need 4.5 quarts. So we're going to go ahead and get you set up here. You can watch this process, although you know how to do this, I know. And, you know, catching the oil and measuring it, you know, some people may say, well, that's a waste of time or whatever. Well, I tell you, it saves a little bit of time too, because now I know exactly how much to go in there. I don't have to put some in there, run the engine for a minute, wait for it to settle out, and then measure it again. I know exactly how much needs to go in. In this case, 4.5 quarts, or just slightly over 4.5 quarts. And you don't have to, you know, get it down to the gnat's butt as far as precision of how much you put in there. Let's go ahead and get this thing filled up. So this is a 5-quart jug, so we're going to fill it up and leave a 1/2 quart in this jug. Now I'm noticing as I fill this thing up that it could potentially overflow the fill neck. So just a word of caution. Just take your time filling this thing, because you don't want it to run out and get all over your valve cover and run down on the exhaust and be smoking and causing all kind of problems. You can't pour it in too fast in this case. And I know you guys know this already, but if you pour it sideways, you won't get that glug, glug, glug that you get when you pour it like this with most of these big jugs. See where we're at here. So we got it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but it's still up here at 1 quart. So I want to give it about a 1/2 quart more. And if you overfill it by a hair, ain't no big deal. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. There we go. We've got a 1/2 quart left in our jug, so we are at 4.5 quarts. We'll go ahead and let that settle out for a second. Let that settle out just for a second there, and then we'll see where we're at on our stick. So wipe our stick off, stick her back in there, have a look-see. And if you guys can tell, we're right above the 2nd dot again, where we should be. And we are going to be good to go. It's always a good idea to go ahead and wipe the lip of these sealing washers around the cap. You want to make sure that makes a good seal, or else it'll end up misting oil all over the valve cover, and that could get a lot of dirt stuck on it. There we go. All right, she's done. All right, so last thing that we need to do is get in the car and reset our maintenance reminder. So we'll come in here and hit our power button one time. and it'll turn on all of our dash up here. And then you need to come to your panel right here. And up there it just says maintenance required soon. Yeah, we just took care of that. That's what we want to do. So just hit your back button right there one time, and it takes you to these menus. Then you can hit your up and down arrows right here until you get to the gear icon. And then you can go to the right. Again, I'm just using these arrows right and left. You go to the right until you get to this one right here that's called vehicle settings, and click on OK. All right. Oh, hold OK. Okay, so we hold OK. All right. Now we got another menu, and we can go down through this menu until we see scheduled maintenance, and it says push OK to reset. And so we'll go ahead and push OK. Reset the data, it asks, and go up to yes. Done. Okay. Now that's every 5,000 miles for scheduled maintenance, and that's what I recommend for oil changes. Now if we go back from here, you notice it also has an oil maintenance up here. And so if we go down to that, you can hit OK on that, and then yes to reset that. Now that is 10,000 miles, or I think, I'll double check, but I think that's for 10,000 miles on oil changes. I do not recommend that. Do it every 5,000 miles. Then you can just hit this back button to get completely out of there, and then you won't have your maintenance reminder on any longer. Power off, and you're good to go. Well, there we go, guys. As you can see, this new Prius with only 5,000 miles had its first oil change. We cut open that oil filter, didn't find anything scary inside, no metal flakes, no little pieces of silicone or anything like that. That makes me feel better because this is my personal vehicle, and she's ready to go for another 5,000 miles till the next oil change. If you guys drive a Prius, you're obviously interested in saving money. So save some more money and change your own oil. It's not that hard. If I can do it, you can do it too. Thank you guys. If this helped you out, help me too. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps me to reach a greater audience with the content here. And I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Have a wonderful week, and God bless.